Kosher Wine Podcast with Dr. Kenny Friedman and Rabbi Yisroel Bernath.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Yisroel Bernath, and welcome to the Kosher Wine Podcast. Uh, I swapped Kenny out for a prettier version.
Oh, thank you.
I'd like to introduce you to my wife, Sarah. Don't worry, Kenny is still hosting with me, but we just came back from a beautiful trip for our 20th wedding anniversary. We went to Spain. And of course, when we went to Spain, we had to go and visit the kosher wine, and we were amazed. So we're going to launch this episode. We're going to do a small series of kosher wine podcast on the road, and look at a couple of the wineries in Spain. And so I figured since the two of us went, we would talk about it. So here we're back home and sitting in our living room drinking wine. And so the first in the series is going to be Capçanes. And we went.
That was our first stop.
That was our first stop. We visited Jürgen, as they say Jürgen there, but I think it's Jürgen Wagner at Capçanes. And he gave us a beautiful tour of the winery. And what's your reflection? Like, what do you think of the winery?
Well, my first impression was just nature there. It was before we even stepped into the winery. We did arrive on a rainy day, but even in the rain, there was something magical about the mountains and the land and nature. It was so serene and otherworldly.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the rain, like the misty kind of silence and just a little bit of rain that isn't like pouring. It's not unpleasant, but it's kind of a little bit magical and otherworldly. But that was just like, it just took my breath away.
So we landed in Barcelona, and then we rented a car and we drove about an hour and a half. North, I believe. It was somewhere, wherever the GPS took us.
Right.
And we arrived in this little village called Capçanes.
Yeah.
It's not just the winery called Capçanes, but the village is called Capçanes. And what I understand is 55 families live there, and they all are part of the winery. Like, it's a cooperative, which is really special. And
it's like the old kibbutz ethos.
Yeah. What was amazing, a few things really popped out at me. Number one is that there's not one Jew that owns it or is part of the winery. Like we did see some kippah wearing people running around, because when we were there, they were
Right.
mixing
Right.
the wine. So that was amazing. And you'll hear later, we interviewed Jürgen. He spoke about that. So that was really amazing. And I asked them also in the interview, like, why this non-kosher winery owned by non-Jews, why they make kosher wine. And actually, what was interesting to me is that I found out that their kosher wine production is only around 15% of their overall production. It's not even a significant part. Here I thought, all these years, the Parage, Habib and the Parage Petita and the Fleur de Fleur, like, these are probably, their trademark wines, but it's such a small part of what they do, actually. So that was really amazing to discover. What do you think of, like, the tour? So we toured both the winery, and then we went up into the vineyards.
Yeah, that was, of course, I was spellbound by the nature. So we did first tour the winery, which was it wasn't my first tour of a winery, but I think I've only been to wineries in Israel, and that's a different vibe, obviously. And so the actual winery had like an old world feel to it, about like with the stone, and because they have like sort of evolved over actually a very short period of time in this location, I think, from what I understand. They've been making wine there for many years, but the actual winery is from the 90s, I think. Possibly a little older, but anyways, they have kept the integrity of the building and turned what used to be like like almost cisterns of wine where they stored wine into rooms. So that was very cool and felt like almost like you were going through like an excavation of like some ruins of some sort, even though it's not very old, but it's just like using the form of what was one thing for something else was very cool. And then we went out and took a little ride like up through the hillside and got to see where the grapes are growing. And it was very neat to see how like we got to drive, right? So it wasn't just a walk. We got to see the different places where they grow wine. Like some is kind of hillside, some is a little bit more foresty. And like on the hills, just being able to look down and see the village like below from standing in the vineyards. It feels like you're in a postcard.
Yeah. It really did. It felt so surreal. And just like you, this was both of our first times in Europe.
Yeah.
And so I have gone to many wineries in Israel. I've also gone to wineries in California, but never in Europe. And there was something so old world, the old world feel about being there. Like you're stepping into, I'm going to say a time warp, but
we did also see like even in the vineyards there was like some old stone houses that he said were like over 100 years old from the different winemakers that lived there and different farmers that lived there. So there was like we get to see that amidst the vineyards as well.
Yeah. So we'll go into the episode.
Okay.
So what we did was we have a couple little postcards that we made from the vineyard.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jürgen was talking a little bit about the phylloxera. So you'll hear a little bit about that. It's kind of just really piecemeal because they're little postcards. And then we did about a 25-minute
just
interview.
so you know, that's a pest that ruins some plants.
Yes.
Talk about
Yeah,
it.
he's going to talk about it.
It's not a grape.
Yeah. And then we did a 25-minute interview in the winery, and we tasted their new the Perage Petita white and rosé that had just been bottled, and that was really amazing. He told us that we were actually the first to taste it, but even some of the big distributors in New York hadn't tasted it yet, so we were really excited. That was special.
Yeah.
So enjoy the episode. We'd love to hear what you think of it, and we can't wait to also deposit maybe some other episodes. We went to a few other wineries too, so we're excited about that, especially for those of you who know the LV winery and the Cohen family. We spent quite a bit of time there. It's going to be a lot of editing. We have a lot of content from that one, but we're excited in the coming weeks for you to hear that one too. So on to the episode with Jürgen Wagner of Capçanes Winery. Enjoy. Welcome to the vineyard of Capçanes Winery. You have to check this out. You have to see this. Do you see how far it goes down? Wow.
Phylloxera, which destroyed all the vineyards in 1900. And before phylloxera, there used to be 10 times more vineyards than today. Which means before phylloxera, all this was planted in the vineyards. And so suddenly, apparently in the middle of a forest, you can find suddenly in the middle of the vineyard, you can find some farmers' houses, still from those old days. So the village itself is only at 200 meters altitude, but the vineyards go up to 700. And now we move up to one of those higher vineyards. It's not a great day, but I mean, once we are on the top, you will get an idea of the diversity. Vineyard is from 1914, so this is my own vineyard. This is Garnacha, 85 years old. I mean, but you know, Spain was not involved in the Second War because Spain had the Civil War a few years earlier.
Right.
And in the 40s, this was also under Franco. This was I mean, here there was no Second War.
Wow.
And here you get an idea. You see it when you look at the color. There's some parcels which are more red color, which is higher content of iron and of clay. Then you have the sandy part. Yeah. Here you have also, I mean, here because this is organically farmed. This is why you still have all the greens and the herbs because I don't use any spray.
Wow. So you spend a lot of time here.
I mean, I like to be in the nature anyway, and right now there's nothing to do. But yeah.
And what's there? What is this little?
That's just a little house.
We taste the grapes.
You can taste it. You can eat them. Yes, of course. I mean, this is usually they're all taken by the birds. Is it still okay?
Delicious.
Yeah, good.
Want to taste?
And in Capçanes, we are in the privileged situation that we have at the bottom of the valley, we have sand soil.
Okay.
Then we have at 600 meter altitude, we have calcaire. We have clay soil. It's like this terracotta soil where you can make also ceramics of. Then most of the slopes are limestone. Yeah, so that's a very white, very light, it easily decomposes soil. And then we also have in the northern part of the village we have schist, slate. Yeah, and depending on the soil, you have different temperature because this soil, for example, does keep the heat. This one reflects the heat much more, yeah. So dark soil always keeps. Then the water retaining is different, and also the nutrition components.
Okay, now it started. Sorry.
Okay. Welcome to the Kosher Wine Podcast.
Welcome in Capçanes.
It's very nice to be here. So I have to, first of all, this is the first time I'm doing an episode without Kenny, so we have to mention Kenny.
Okay, welcome.
And so Capçanes, how do we say it properly?
Capçanes.
Capçanes is the right way to say it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like we call it with a sharp S. Capçanes.
Capçanes.
Yes, that's correct.
And we're in Montsant.
Yeah.
In Spain. It's beautiful. I mean, coming up here was just something absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely in the middle of nowhere. I mean, in the village itself, we are only 400 people.
Yeah.
In the whole district, we are only 8,000. So we're a little bit hidden in the mountains.
And it's quaint, and just walking around the winery and just getting the experience. I was surprised by a few things walking around the winery. The first thing I was surprised by was how that 80% of your production now is not kosher. Though the wine started as a kosher winery.
Exactly.
So can you give us a little bit of the background, so that we have an idea of what the story is?
Yeah. Actually, we started as a bulk wine producer, so we only did big volumes. We never bottled it. Then we became a grape supplier, which means we sold the grapes to third parties, and they made the wine out of it. And finally, in the mid-90s, we ended, or some of our farmers ended selling their lands because there was no way to make their living, their outcome here. So it was really a very traumatic moment for us. And to become independent, to find our own little spot in this wine world, Thanks God, we came across with the rabbi in Barcelona, and in '95 he was forced to buy French kosher wines because there was none made in Spain, and they told us, if you do kosher, the whole world is waiting, yeah? And we did the first 95, and the second Pere Shabib, the second vintage, José Penin, he's the most influential wine writer here in Spain. He refuted on the third place behind Pingus and Lemita. And so the other two wines, they're at whatever, 1,000 euros, 800 euros a bottle, and then the third was our Pere Shabib.
Wow.
And this was just when I finished my studies. I heard the kosher. I've never had my life kosher, and it made me moving to the village. And I fall in love with the village, and 2 years later I decided to live here and to buy my vineyard and to be part now from the company.
You're now part of it, right? You have that's beautiful. The kosher wine enabled this winery to exist, and I'm fascinated by it because I'm a rabbi and a lover of wine, and so the story of the local Chabad rabbi wanting kosher wine, kind of being the genesis of this winery, is amazing to me. And so besides the fact that he wanted the wine and you started it with him, you can't make the wine without him, right?
No, we're not allowed to do anything. I mean, we can tell him when it comes to winemaking what we should do, what we recommend, but above everything is the kosher law. So first of all, we have to follow the kosher law itself. I mean, I'm not Jewish. I'm a winemaker. I'm outside of your community. Sometimes I have the feeling that in your world, kosher sometimes is hidden, which I think is the wrong idea, because there's a lot of truth behind kosher, and nowadays in the non-Jewish world, there are little parts of your world which we like to follow. I give you an example. In the kosher winemaking, or generally in the winemaking, there are certain methods we can use to clean wines, and we call this fining. So we make something dirty nice by fining. And what you do is you take certain materials, you put it in the wine, and those materials, they take out the taste and the flavor and the deposit, whatever you don't like. Unfortunately, all those finings material are based on milk, meat, and fish.
Wow. Which
means in the kosher you're not allowed to use them, because otherwise, you can't mix those groups. And in my world, if you don't use them, if you work with an unfined wine, the wines are automatically vegan certified. So something whatever 4,000 years old today becomes very trendy, because we get into vegan. And
so what are you using instead?
First of all, we don't use any, because you're not forced to fine wine. As long as you work perfect and at a very high hygiene and level, and very important, if you don't use the press too much, because most of the time you have to take the tannins out, and the tannins are these bitter flavors, which you can take out by fining. But for example, for the kosher, we are not allowed to use our press, because inside of the press there's a plastic sac, and this plastic, this press we use for non-kosher wines. And we can't use it for kosher and for non-kosher wines. So we only use free run juice for our Capçanes wines.
So there are no Jewish owners of this winery?
No, not at all.
It's just the rabbi that comes in, and so therefore you cannot touch. I don't think a lot of people know this. You cannot touch the wine. You're the winemaker, but you cannot touch your own wine.
Exactly. We can't touch. We even can't look at it. I mean, not to look at it. It's also a way to keep us even more far away.
Wow.
And to avoid us to get introduced or involved as much as possible.
You've been doing this for almost 30 years. How do you feel about that?
Next year is actually our 30th anniversary. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I mean, personally, I'm very happy, because personally it's the kosher it also, I mean, it somehow defined my own life, because, you know, I'm trained as a winemaker. I worked as a wine buyer, heard it in '95 about kosher at Capçanes, and it made me moving to the village. It made me becoming part of the company. Without the kosher wine, my life probably would be anywhere else.
But you're a winemaker, and you're a trained winemaker, and you're making this kosher wine, which is fantastic wine, and you can't touch it.
You know, please don't take it wrong. We like to call the rabbi to be an expensive trainee. So what we do is, if we tell our workers to do the job, or if we tell the rabbi to do the job, or his assistant to do the job, it doesn't matter. I mean, we are not doing the job ourselves anymore. We have our team. So the way, the right way to do it, you have to explain, and you have to explain why you do certain things, and then they can do the job as good as we do.
So it sounds like you've brought the rabbi into the winemaking process.
As much as yeah, it's possible. Yeah. I mean, not really in the winemaking process. He has no decisions. He's not taking any decision when it comes to wine. Yeah, he's following the kosher law. Yeah. Capçanes was founded in 1930. Okay. The first part, 5 families decided to join, and then later on we got 55. So nowadays I would say 85% of the village is part of our company. Yeah? The first 50, 60 years at our property, and this is the part I will show you at the beginning of the tour, we did only bulk wine, which means everything we did was made in big cement vats, okay, and then it was sold on a truck or by train to others, and they bottled it, which means we never ever bottled anything. Yeah. And then in the 80s, 90s, people didn't want to buy anymore our bulk wines, because those bulk wines, they were made under very simple conditions. Mm-hmm. And others decided to buy our fruit, our grapes, okay, and to bring those grapes on a truck to their own facilities, to their own modern facilities. So in the beginning of the 90s happened the worst what can happen to a winery. From a bulk wine producer was already pretty low, suddenly we became declassified to become a simple grape supplier. And that's the lowest level you can reach as a winery. Yeah? Mm-hmm. And then happened something what really nobody expected. Spain became part of the European Union. Mm-hmm. The country, I mean, there was a lot of movement going on here, and especially this mountain area became very, very hip. It became very trendy. Okay. Yeah? And the first who understood that something is happening in Montsant were our former grape and bulk wine buyers. And they understood that to buy bulk wine is clever, to buy grapes even more clever. But the best is if we start buying land, if we start buying vineyards, and we become independent and we don't need the cooperatives anymore. Yeah? And then when we saw our customers buying their own vineyards, we became very nervous, because it was just a question of time that they wouldn't need us anymore as a grape supplier. Mm-hmm. Yeah? And then in '95, in a really desperate moment, we looked for an alternative to become independent from them. And the strangest, the most bizarre idea we had was listening to a request from the Jewish community in Barcelona to do kosher wine. Because in '95 there was no kosher wine made in Spain, and the rabbi in Barcelona, he was forced to buy kosher wine from the French. Mm-hmm. You can imagine the Spanish rabbi had to buy kosher wines from the French, wasn't really one of the ideals. Yeah. Right. And then they told us, if you do kosher, the whole world is waiting. You can sell 100,000 bottles. Yeah, what never happened. But we did the first Perashabib in '95, and the '96 Perashabib got reviewed after Pingus and Lemita to become the 3rd highest scored wine all over Spain. And Pingus cost you a bottle 1,000 euros, Lemita cost you a bottle 600 euros, and the 3rd was our Perashabib. And this was just a year when I finished. I'm from Germany. Yeah, I'm trained as a winemaker. So it was just a year when I finished my studies. I had a scholarship for Spain. Moved to Spain. Heard about the kosher wine. I've never had in my life kosher.
Okay.
Came to Capçanes, tasted the kosher wine, fall in love with the kosher wine, and based on the kosher wine, we started to build up the non-kosher wine range. So the Capçanes story is a bulk wine producer became a grape supplier, then a kosher bottle wine producer, and finally a non-kosher bottle wine producer.
Amazing.
There's not one single Jewish dollar in the city, in the village. There's not one Jewish person living here. So the Catholic, narrow-minded mountain farmers invested their own money in the Jewish religion to become independent from those bulk and grape suppliers. And then a German winemaker comes, tastes the kosher wine, and based on the kosher wine, we're making the non-kosher wines.
What a story.
I mean, it's really, it's for Hollywood.
Yeah.
But for kosher wine, they only accept stainless steel, new oak, and facilities which have never been with non-kosher in contact. And here you have cement deposits, and of course here kosher wine, non-kosher wine was to be made. So we built several facilities only for the kosher, which I will show you now.
So you're in the middle of bottling the 2024 vintage, and you took this right off the line.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're really. I mean, this is amazing. Nobody tasted those two 24 Perach Petitas, white and rosé. And you're literally.
Have you tasted it?
I tasted it, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, in the
So they're non-mavushal, and so for those of you who don't know what non-mavushal is, which means I'm going to open and pour the wine.
Yeah.
And so as I'm opening it, tell us what we're drinking.
What we're drinking is 100% white Garnacha, and there are lots of varietals in the world, but when it comes to kosher wines, there's still not that diversity of varietals out there. I mean, in the non-kosher world, we have hundreds, we have thousands of varietals we can use, and Grenache Blanc, white Garnacha, in kosher. Frankly, I don't know if there's any other. So this is 100% white Grenache. It's only stainless steel tank aged, no barrel.
So there's no oak.
There's no oak at all, and it has this beautiful. I mean, you're gonna find out yourself. So
yeah. I'm very excited to find out. Are you going to be joining us?
Yes.
So how long ago was this bottled?
Last week.
Wow.
I mean, this is literally off the line.
Wow. You want to try? L'chaim. Wow. Very citrusy.
Yeah. You have the floral, you have a little bit of vanilla, of spices, you have yellow fruit.
Yeah, yellow fruit.
A bit of banana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, what's for me always surprising is when you smell a wine. I mean, it's literally it's really strange. When you smell a wine, you find any flavors, but it hardly smells or tastes as grapes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, this is what fermentation adds to it. So maybe on a Moscatel, you can it tastes like the grape itself, but usually it does not.
I mean, what a lot of people don't know is that so much of tasting wine is smelling it.
Yeah, it's
so much of it.
I mean, yeah. And this is so seductive. This is for me.
Oh wow! It's like tropical.
Yeah.
That banana is so strong.
Yeah. I mean, this is something you could even use in the morning as perfume to start the day.
It is. It's very perfumey.
Yeah. And it was just bottled. I mean, this is surprising that it's already so open after. I mean, it should be bottle shop.
Yeah.
But it's not at all. So that's a very good sign.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try it. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam v'yakov. The hardest thing for Jews is to spit out wine.
You don't have to spit.
I
mean,
I know.
If I would drink everything I taste,
I know.
I would be drunk by 11 in the morning. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But we always joke about it because like, oh, you can't spit out your wine. I mean, it's such good stuff. You know, like everyone's always, you know, like, oh, it's such a good, expensive wine. Why are you spitting it out?
Yeah.
But it is part of the culture.
Yeah.
Wow, it's really. So when is this going to hit the market, you think?
I mean, there's one container now going to the US, Israel. There's also a shipment for the end of the year. So Canada also will be followed. So yeah.
Amazing. It's a really, really, really great white. Let's try the rosé.
Yeah.
So tell us something that you think that you haven't spoken about before about this winery and what makes it unique. Is there something that like?
I mean, for me, when it comes to winemaking, everything starts in the vineyard. It's all about the vineyard because in the winery itself, we all know the technique, we all know the facilities, the methods, how to do things. I mean, but in the vineyard, you can really make things different.
The terroir here is very different than other kosher terroirs. Like you can already feel that. You can see it.
I mean, we will. I mean, I'm gonna show you now. First of all, we only take the fruit of our own vineyards. So we work our own vineyards, and in most other wineries, they buy the fruit wherever they get it, and then they vinify it. So we do the first selection we already do in our parcel. Then the second is with very old vines. I mean, you know La Flore.
Yeah.
It's 110 years old bush wines Grenache and 110 years old bush wines Samson.
That's amazing. So we were talking about this, that initially those old vines, actually it was a very poor area, is what you said, and that a lot of the locals didn't want them. They were trying to get rid of them, but they couldn't afford to get rid of them. And as a result, it's our gift.
Yeah. Nowadays it's our gift, yeah. It was a big disadvantage because the older vine, I mean, a vineyard, a vine hardly dies. I mean, it might die after 150, 180, 200 years. But what happens is the yield is going down. Yeah. And less fruit, less income. And for some people, I mean, it was seriously an issue.
Yeah.
But today, thanks God, the market is willing to pay for this extra complexity, and we can give that back to the farmers, and that's the reason why they continue working 100 years old vineyards.
So tell us about 2024, the new vintage, also about a week bottled?
Yes, both, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And so this is the Grenache.
I mean, both are Garnacha, because Garnacha you have as white Garnacha, and you also have it as a red version,
right.
The Grenache Noir, Garnacha
right.
Negra. And when it comes to Garnacha, to make a rosé wine, what you do is you keep the skin contact very short. Yeah. So here we immediately press it to avoid the skin contact, because on red grapes, the meat, the juice itself, it's always transparent. Color material is only located in the skins. So the longer you keep this maceration, the skin contact, the darker it becomes. And here it might be only 20 minutes. And that's right. The way how you can make that very pale.
Right.
You can even make it. I mean, in kosher we don't do it, but in non-kosher we do it. If you press red grapes immediately, you can make a blanc de noir. You can make a white wine out of red
right.
grapes.
Right.
Yeah.
So what should we expect in this 24 vintage?
I mean, what's the difference is, it sounds to be very simple, but sometimes things are really simple. When it comes to flavors, here the flavor profile is a bit more focused on red colored fruit flavors. Yeah, strawberry, fresh cherry. Yeah, on a white wine, usually the flavors are much more turning into yellow colors. So it's surprising that even by the color of the wine, it already transmits you the kind of flavors you can refine. For example, a full-bodied Cabernet Sauvignon, yeah, you have this blackcurrant, black cherry, small black fruit flavors, So and here this is much more these light, delicate.
And the strawberry hits you right away.
Yeah,
absolutely. Wow, the strawberry is really strong. It's very fresh.
Yeah, it's very but at the same time it's not candy.
Right.
You know, sometimes ganacha or not ganacha, sometimes rosés they taste artificial. They have this candy, artificial fruit flavor explosion, which I can't stand. Yeah, because it's way too much. Yeah.
Right.
Here you're still at this beautiful elegance.
No, it's not. It's not sweet.
No. It's
One of the things that always surprised me about rosé is that it's all rosé. Where in a red wine you would go by the grape. Where in a rosé, that's it. It's a rosé, and we don't appreciate the grape enough.
Oh, in the non-kosher world, rosé is a big thing.
Yes, but do we say rosé Grenache?
Yeah.
Oh, we would.
Yeah.
Because in the kosher world, I don't think we've
but
done that yet.
This I'm not. Just take your time. We're gonna.
You think it's gonna make it?
Yeah. Definitely.
Because from one rosé to the next, I mean, you have two different worlds. I mean, this and some of the other rosé. I mean, it's non-comparable.
Of course. Yeah.
Oh wow, it's so fresh.
I mean, just take as an example white wines. When we started, there was nobody wanted to have kosher white wine. Everything had to be big, extractful, a lot of alcohol red wines. Yeah, and now in the last 3, 4, 5 years, the kosher white wine market exploded. Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is, I mean, those two. This is definitely my box. I have my boxes at home, and this box is called Dangerous. No, because this is something you.
It's so easy to drink.
Yeah.
It's just so easy to drink.
Yeah. And refreshing, and it seems to be light, and
Seems like the wrong time of year for this.
Yeah. I mean, a rosé in front of a fireplace. It's nice because when you have the heat from the fireplace and then you take something refreshing, I mean that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a good point. Wow. Okay, well, it's really special to spend this time here and to be here at the winery and to spend this time with you, and thank you for giving us your time.
No, what a welcome.
It's been an honor.
Let's go to the vineyard.
Absolutely.
Cool.